are spending like $700 a month, and I question, like for myself, I question like how do you spend $700 a month on groceries, and
Right.
they just happen to spend like I don't know. Like one example is they're buying parallel 49th coffee
Yeah.
versus tins of McDonald's McCafe. I think I don't know. It's just I don't know. It's just a difference of consumer's choice, I suppose, right? But
Yeah.
yeah, no, it's affected me. Like my bills are still $400 a month, but
Yeah.
I've changed the type of foods where we consume. Like for me, it's less packaged foods now, right?
Right.
I was the same thing. I go to Costco, I go down that frozen aisle, I
Yeah.
buy, like spanakopita,
Mm-hmm.
I'll buy like, I still buy hamburgers.
Right.
I love Costco hamburgers for some reason. I'll get my, $6.99 Costco chicken,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
Like that hasn't changed. And I don't think that will
Dollar
change because
fifty
that's,
Costco hot dog. Like, how do they still do it? Like,
I don't
I mean,
eat
I,
hot
I
dogs.
mean, I just,
No,
I
no,
just
no.
had a
I don't eat
barbecue,
Costco
right?
hot
Like
dogs.
last week, and I was like
Yeah.
calculating. I mean,
Yeah.
getting a pack of sausages was like 17, 18 bucks. I'm like, I can just
Yes.
get pre-cooked. Like, I can get 15, 20 of them for the same price.
Yeah,
And I'm like,
you might have well,
wait, I'm
right?
like, why?
They're already warm for
They're
you and
cooked,
everything, right?
and you get a drink. And I'm like,
Yeah.
maybe. I was like joking with my wife, and she's like, why didn't you do that? And I'm like, well,
Yeah.
because I want to put it on the grill and actually do something. It's like, but it's more economical to just go pick up the hot dog and the pizza, right? So you went to Domino's for $50, right? Like three large pizzas. We could have gone to Costco for like $13 times two, $36,
You
right?
could have got
So
five. Are they $10 or $13 at
13,
Costco?
I
I don't
think.
remember.
13, yeah, 13
Sure,
at
but those are
Costco.
those are big pizzas.
Big
Those are big
pizzas, they're
pizzas
bigger
compared
than
to
Domino's,
Domino's.
right? And I'm like,
Yeah,
I
yeah,
don't know. I'm like, I mean, I'm like,
yeah,
I've got already all this Costco stuff already. I just want to differentiate a little bit, right?
yeah,
But she's like,
yeah.
no, man, we gotta maximize their savings.
But I mean, I think inflation is affecting some. Like much to what you said earlier, I still see the same number of cars on the road.
Yes,
I'll tell you that.
if not more, because people are going back to office.
As yeah, people are going back to the office, and I mean, I see $1.99 a liter out here,
Yeah.
right? I see just as many cars. I don't hear people. No, so you hear in the media people complaining, but on a day-to-day basis, no, I don't hear any complaints of people saying, like, oh, gas is so expensive. I'm going to stop driving. I take transit. I don't hear that,
No.
right? I look at the transit buses, like as they drive by,
Yeah.
they're not packed.
No.
Right, they're not full. I think people are still scared of contracting COVID.
Yes.
Taking public transit because they're within proximity of other people,
Right.
But like it has not deterred people just absorbing that cost into their everyday lives, right? And
That, or
it's not gonna,
or
it's
they
not
have an
gonna affect
electric
people
vehicle.
like you and me. Yeah, like me, for example. I have an
Yeah.
EV, right?
My dad
And
does
quite
too,
frankly,
right?
quite frankly, I don't care about gas prices, right?
Yeah,
I kind
exactly.
of drive. I was telling my wife like a couple of months ago, right? Like, I drive by the gas station. I basically say, look at all these guys with their gas cars, right? But I'm just fortunate, and I made a decision to get an electric vehicle. About a year and a half ago now.
Yeah.
During the pandemic.
Yeah.
And the only reason I got my electric vehicle because I was scared back in early 2020. I wasn't scared, but I was planning back in early 2021 that they would call us back to the office, and this
Right.
was before before Delta came out.
Right.
I was scared. We were getting vaccinated around March, April, May, and
Mm-hmm.
As a preparation that they were going to call us back to the office, that I would. I know from where I live and the fact no one is taking public transit,
Right.
the highway is going to be packed. I want an electric vehical so I could take the HOV to work.
Gotcha.
Right?
Yeah.
To and from, right?
Yeah.
And then basically, we didn't have to go back to the office, and
Yeah.
now I have my EV. It's been 15 months at this point,
Right.
and I have like 10,000 kilometers on it. For like 1.5 years, I have 10,000 kilometers on it, right? But like I'm fortunate enough where I charge my own car using the regular outlet.
Right.
I get 8 kilometers an hour.
Yeah.
Charging rate. It takes me 60 hours to fully charge my car. But
Why
it's
don't
good
you
enough.
just get
It's
one
good
of those
enough.
like super adapters? It's like $800. You save so much
Yeah,
time.
but Kenald, like that's how cheap I am at the end of the day. Is I don't want to spend $800. right?
For the time. For the time
No, but
traded back.
look at it this way. But look at it this way. I'm not gonna drive 400. Like my car goes 400 kilometers
Right.
on a full charge, right?
Yeah.
I'm not gonna drive 355 kilometers in a day.
True.
In which I'm gonna have to drive 355 kilometers the next day.
Right.
That the need to, or the not the need, the want to install a level 2 charger.
Right.
I understand it, for the fear that you might over the weekend, coming back on a Sunday, coming back from Whistler, you're going to drive those 200 kilometers and you might have like 100 kilometer charge left, and Monday you got to go to work and you need to charge your car, right? I understand that, but no, I'm in a very particular situation where I don't go to the office,
Right.
and if they ever called me back to the office, I would fight tooth and nail, right? I mean, I've lived in this work from home environment for the last 2, I guess, going 3 years. I don't know. I've lost track of time at this point. I think I've been gone for like 2 or 3 years from the office. If they ask me to go back in, I know they're going to have a pretty tough time bringing me back in. And I'm kind of, no, this is being broadcasted live. I don't think many people are viewing our channel yet, but if it happens to be a coworker or someone who happens to be listening in right now, and none of my coworkers have my Facebook or my social media, right? Virtually intentionally. But if someone happens to see this right now, I will not go back to the office. I'm telling you right now, like there are so many options out there right now. And this is a whole, the not the great resignation thing, right? Where
part of it,
I have choice as to where I want to work.
Yes.
And the raises they gave us, March 31st is our fiscal year end.
Right.
The raises they gave us were complete shit, I thought.
Right.
Excuse my language. I mean, this is a PG channel. Like the raises they gave us were only like 2.2%.
With inflation being 4 or 5%, like
inflation being 4, 5, 6%, right?
Yeah,
it was a slap in the face, and they said, "Oh, next year we're going to change everyone's salary bands, right?" And I'll say, "Yeah, we'll see." But by next year, if you're asking me to come back to the office, I'm getting emails every 2 or 3 weeks about a hybrid work model,
right?
And if you're going to make me come into the office 1 or 2 days a week, I will not come in.
Right.
Like, you're going to have to fire me.
Yeah.
Before I come in.
Right.
And if you fire me, I won't be coming in. Right. So no, that's where I am. That's my position at this point. With if we're talking about inflation, great resignation, that can be another topic of another day. But I will not come back to work just because there's so much choice out there right now.
Oh yes.
I could quit and do YouTube full time. I could quit and do Twitch full time.
Yep.
I could quit and drive Uber if I want.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
I could quit and just start another bookkeeping firm if I want.
Yep.
Right. And I could set up in Point Roberts and charge US dollars and, have American clientele, right? I'm a Canadian CPA, where, I can do bookkeeping for American clients, right? And, maybe one day if I do that, I set up in Point Roberts and I can get my EB5 green card one day.
Yep.
Right.
Come join me in
I'm just saying. But I'm just saying, like, there's so much choice out there right now. Like, you don't have to. Like, the age of being with your employer for 20, 30 years, that's gone. Right? No one does that.
Gone. No more.
I was with my first employer for 3 years. I was with my next employer for 1 year.
Yeah.
I went back to my first employer for 4 years after, 3.5 years after that. Right. Then I went almost 100% on my own. Right. And now I'm double shifting between my own and, my job at this point.
Yeah.
Right. And you know what? I'm at this point, like, I don't need my job. I do my job because I like my job, which is weird, right? Like, I love my job, actually.
Other than going back to the office.
Other than going back to the office. I don't love it that much, right? But, I love it to the point where it's a 9 out of 10 for me. Like, doing the work I do there, the type of work I do there, like, I absolutely want to show up, in my pajamas at home. For the salary that they pay me, which is, to be frank, is not a bad salary.
Right.
It just sucked that they gave me a 2% raise versus what inflation was over the last 2-3 years at this point.
They're stuck in 2019. If they want you to back in the office, they forgot about 2020 and 2021. That's why you're getting the 2% raise. They still think inflation is at 2%.
Well, the argument that they're no, the argument that they're presenting us is culture, right? I understand the whole culture thing. Like I'm hiring people right now, and it's weird. Like, I've hired these people during the pandemic.
Yeah.
We've been working on Zoom this entire time.
Yeah.
And it's just weird in the sense that, I've never actually physically met these people. I've never gone out to lunch with them. I never actually got to know them.
Yeah.
Right. It's only the people who I've worked with pre-pandemic, in the office during that time that, I'm familiar with them. But all the new people, like, it's just there is no, I wouldn't say there's no sense of culture, but like culture has been impacted significantly, at least from my point of view.
Right.
And I'm not saying it's a bad thing. I'm just saying, and it's, this is a side tangent. I'll go back to that, that thing. I don't think you can love your job. No, let me take that back. It's not that. I don't think your boss is not your friend.
Oh, 100%
your coworkers are not your friends.
Mm-hmm.
That's at least the way I interpret it, right? And a lot of people disagree with me, right?
Yep.
A lot of people say, "Oh, my coworkers are my family," right? Well, my boss is my friend. They give me feedback, right? Quite frankly, if you stop performing, your boss doesn't give a shit about you. Your boss doesn't care about you, right? If it's as simple as that. Your job is a business transaction.
Yes.
Right. It's you put in your time, you get paid. Right. Yeah. And when you stop putting in your time, right, that relationship is severed. It's not like family. Real family is, you piss off family. For the most part, they forgive you for the most part, right? If you're, your work is not your family, right? And that's just my point of view from it, right? So, going back to, what you mentioned about pre-2019 or this whole discussion about culture, I get it, right? We need to mix and mingle. We need to get to know each other for synergies and everything, right? But if we're not there forever, like a lot of our generation, we're only there for 2, 3, 5 years until we can plateau, get everything we need to learn, and basically get out, right?
But who's in senior management? Not millennials. That's why.
Well, I'm in mid-management. I'm on the career path for senior management, and I'm going to say soon.
Path, right?
But I'm going to say soon, Kenald. I'm going to say soon.
Soon?
If I stick there for another couple of years, I will be part of senior management.
Then you can change the culture of this whole return to work hybrid model and just show them, which people have in the last 2 years, that it's possible to work from home and be just as effective, if not more effective. Right? And to let the people that are saying like, no, I have a friend like that, right? They're like, oh, because we rented out this really expensive real estate, we want everyone back in the office. And my friend's kind of like, why? Like, I'm more
Our lease
effective.
is over.
Yeah. Oh,
our lease is over. Yeah. If we go back to the office, we're going basically to share space with another sister organization. And then basically we're going to pretty much just lease another space.
Yeah.
Right. And it's going to be a smaller space for sure. Right? Yeah. But nonetheless, I think we're going to lease another space. It's almost like, what's the point? And you mentioned like going into senior management and changing culture. Mm-hmm. Sure. Right. I'm one person.
Yep.
There are other senior managers who will have their say as well.
Yep.
But again, why do I care? Right. Like in the grand scheme. Okay. I love my job.
Yeah.
That's granted, right? I love the type of work I do in my job, right? But at the end of the day, affecting for me to impact culture, I want to work from home, right? I understand the efficiencies from working from home, right? To free up the hour before work and to free up the hour after work allows me, I can go to the gym, I can do my 40-minute walk in the morning with my dog, right? It allows me to do all of that, right? But in the grand scheme of things, I established, your coworkers, not your family. Like it's almost like who cares, quite frankly. I wouldn't care about impacting that at the end of the day. And call me a jerk for saying that, right? But that's where I stand my ground, right?
Yeah, well, different people have different, different priorities and stuff like that. So, I mean, change management is not for everyone. and
Yeah.
you gotta do what you gotta do for yourself, right? Like you said,
Yeah.
like managers pretend to be, your friends, and they try to be, and
Well,
then
they
it's like,
don't pretend to be your friends, right? I don't think anyone pretends to be your friend. Well, no, that's not true. That's not true. Okay. In terms of the mass majority, right? I don't think your managers pretend to be your friend. They're there to develop a co-working relationship with you, right?
mm-hmm.
No, to the extent that we assume everyone is good, right?
Yeah.
Going into a working relationship, and that's not always that doesn't always result in truth at the end of the day. But we go in thinking everyone's good, right?
Yeah.
And we establish who we can be friendly with,
Yeah.
right? To get our jobs done.
Yeah.
But as soon as as soon as it becomes toxic,
Yes.
that's where the friendship ends.
Yeah. Friendship.
or the work friendship ends,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And I've seen that with the various companies I've been with at this point, right? So,
Which is unfortunate. You spend what? You spend 40, 50, maybe sometimes 60, 70 hours, and then, and I'm on the side of like, I'm like opposed to you. So I do see, I mean, at one time in one of my jobs, like I did see I did see them more than I saw family, and it was like, family, right? And that was like, you want to talk about synergies, you want to talk about workplace culture, you want to talk about like, I didn't really care how much I was being paid, probably underpaid, but it was still fine with me because I liked going to work because it was a fun place to go, right?
yeah.
But you go to a place where it's like toxic, and it's like, it's like high school drama all over again. And you're like, I thought I'm done with this, and it's like worse, right? And it's like, oh, like, you gotta put your game face on, Kenald, right? Like manager once told me, and I'm like, what game face? Like when you first hired me, I told you I wear my heart on my sleeve. Like I don't have no game face. Right? And she's like, no, like, you gotta be more professional. I'm like, how is this not professional? Like, oh, no emojicons on Messenger, right? And I'm like, that's me. Like, no, this is corporate, Kenald, right? Like, you gotta be more professional. And I'm like, okay, so you're just you're trying to suck the personality out of me, okay? Got it. Message understood. And then it's like, next feedback is like, oh, where did your personality go, Kenald? Okay, what is it? You want the emojis or you want the professionalism, right? And it's like, oh no, you gotta balance both. And I'm like, screw it.
I'm very good with game face. I'm very good. Like if you like, I do not wear my heart on my sleeve at all. And I it's almost, I wouldn't call it a pretending act.
It's not,
right?
It's a skill.
And but it's I wouldn't. People use the word diplomacy.
Yeah,
People say I'm a very diplomatic person.
Yes.
I wouldn't say I'm diplomatic either, though, right? But that's the word that they choose to define me,
Yes.
right? I think I'm just. I wouldn't say I'm good at reading situations because I've read situations wrong.
Right.
Like, no, I'm not perfect.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I approach the situations with caution. Right. And I almost approach it with I wouldn't say emotionless face, but, with a smile, with an ingenuine smile almost.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to say that. Right. And I approach it with caution. Right. Because, for the most part, we know who we're dealing with every day.
Yes.
But we don't know what's happened to everyone every day.
Yes.
Right. They could have had, the worst drive to work.
Yeah.
They could have had, something up the elevator. Someone could have farted in the elevator or something on the way up.
Yep.
Right. Like something could have just ticked them off to an extent where, something could just, blow their fuse. Right.
Yeah.
So regardless who it is, if it's not, if it's someone I have to work with.
Yeah.
Right. I'm 90% forward, but there's always the 10% I keep back.
Yeah. Yeah. And
I'm
110% me. Like that's just me.
Sure.
And my wife's like, no, you got to be more diplomatic. She doesn't use diplomatic, right? But she's like, you got to put your game face on, right? I'm like, I don't want to wear a mask to work. Like, and I'm like, you know what? I've just accepted the fact I'm not going back to corporate. Like, it's just not for me, right? I mean, I love the drama, right? Like Chinese TVB dramas about like corporate. Like I'm watching one right
when
now.
you're watching it, when you're
Yeah,
watching
it's
it,
like,
sure.
oh, this is like, oh
But
yeah,
when
this
you're
is how she acts.
when you're in it,
Oh.
when you're in it, it's
Yeah,
just a
bye.
headache.
Yeah, bye.
Yeah.
Like no.
Yeah.
Like I'm so busy with work already. I don't want to have to like balance relationships with, okay, did I say the right thing? Am I, PC, politically correct? Did I tick off this coworker and that? I'm like, I've got no time. I got a toddler, for crying out loud. That's like just saying baba, 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 right, mama, baba, mama. Like, I'm already dealing with that at home, right? I don't need to deal with a bunch of toddlers, at work, right?
Yeah.
For lack of a better word, like, please grow up.
No, but I mean, so it was really weird for me when I started work at my organization, because I joined the organization as a mat leave replacement, right? So I had no intention to be there long term.
Right.
I was only going to be there for a year, and I've been there for 5 years now.
Right.
Oh no, this would be my 6th year. I'm 5.5 years in at this point, and with the intention that I wasn't going to be there long term, I intentionally did not make friends at my company. And I closed my LinkedIn account.
Okay.
I do have LinkedIn now, but I only have like 3 or 4 contacts. Right. I have no coworkers on my Facebook.
Okay.
I have no Instagram account.
Yeah.
I have a Twitter account that I don't use.
Right.
So I have no social media that connects me with my coworkers. And that was 100% intentional at the end of the day. Right. And it, even today, right, I don't go out for drinks with my coworkers, right? Pre-pandemic or during. I do have the boss who had hired me at my organization. He left the company about 2 years ago now. Yeah, I have lunch with him now. Because he's left the company,
right?
But people within the company, I don't associate with that at all, because it's in some sense it's artificial.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, everyone has to put on a game face for work.
Yeah.
Everyone has to put on some sort of mask or some sort of hat.
Yep.
When they show up, because they can't be a turd showing up, right?
Yep.
And that's that, right? So I mean, there's some ingenuine that you know what I mean.
Yes.
At the end of the day, I just it's, to me, it's not worth going for.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and that's the thing, right? I was kind of like, when I was hired, when I did the interview for that position, I was like, yeah, this is who I am, and I'm not gonna hide it. And if I'm gonna leave, I'm gonna leave with like me, right? I'm not gonna fit into this mold that just to fit in some kind of corporate image, the perfect employee. Like, I've done that all my life, going through school and all that. And I'm like,
we were trained to do that.
Yeah, and I'm like, you know what? Like,
we're trained to be yes men.
Yeah, and I'm like, I'm done that.
Or yes women, the women.
Women. And I'm kind of like, you know what? We'll see what happens, right? I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna live this way, and if they don't like it, then yes, lay me off, move on.
Yeah.
And so be it, right? And it's like, great, now I know this is not the path I want to be on. I want to do some other stuff and pursue life, right? And doing this on a Saturday night is, people will be like, are you working at that late? I'm like, no, this is enjoyment. I'm having a lot of fun, right? Doing this. I mean, I did radio back in 2012, like with the local Chinese radio station, right? I mean, I didn't get into the top 8, but I connected with one of my kind of contestant now. We met there as friends, and and I'm like, hey, you know what? I kind of have my own radio show now on like 9 o'clock, right, on Saturdays, just like anyone, right? Like just Andrew Walker, I think he was like on Sportsnet, got let go I think last year. Now he's starting his own podcast. He was just advertising on Twitter somewhere. I think Ian McIntyre was pumping that up. But it's like, all those shows we're talking about it too. Like, Donnie and Danny. Donnie and Danny.
Donnie and Danny.
Yeah. Zacharias and Price show. Like, all those things that were on the radio, now they've all done like podcasts, and it's like, and people still kind of follow them because it's not the station anymore. It's the people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And so it's like, wow, like, I get to do this, and it's like, if someone tunes in, great. If not, I'm still going to do it because I just love talking about the topics we kind of talk about. And yeah, and then like, I've been connecting back with my Alta Mater, is that what they call them? UBC.
Auto
Auto
automator,
Automater,
one of the two.
Automater,
Yeah.
tomato.
Yeah.
I went to all these kind of different, because they called a alum and to go to all these events. So in March, just before exam season,
I was invited too, actually. I didn't
you just
respond.
didn't go. Yeah, I know.
I went once. No, I went once.
Yeah.
Maybe 7 or 8 years ago.
Yeah.
No, I'm not going during March anymore. I don't
Oh
have time
yeah,
to
it's
do that.
busy
Right?
season for you. Don't do
Yeah.
that. For me,
But
we don't got. I mean, as a financial planner, I mean, I guess January and
you
February.
got January, February is busy
right?
for you.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so March and onwards, it's like, I mean, I guess for corporate clients, but I don't have any of those yet. But yeah, if down the road I do, then yeah, it may get busy. But anyways, March was okay for me,
Yeah.
and I went back and just connected with like a bunch of students, and I was like, oh yeah, I love students. I forgot about that. It was a passion
Yeah.
of mine to help them and kind of be a mentor and all that, and so kind of doing that kind of work now, and yeah, and just doing potentially maybe like a personal finance course, and I'm like I said, this look, right, the professor look, maybe I'll become
You need a
professor.
tweed jacket.
like one of these. I'm gonna have one, like one of these, like
Fair enough. Yeah.
red jacket, and
Yeah. You got the whole outfit.
and then I got the whole outfit on with
Yeah.
Mickey Mouse on. So there you go.
Yeah.
Like
There you go.
um. Anyway, so no, so yeah, so I don't have to put on no game face. This is my face. This is who I am. And I did intentionally post things that was like, I was like, I had on my Instagram. You want to talk about social media? I'm a complete opposite of you. I add my coworkers, I add everyone that I know.
Interesting.
And for better or for worse, I mean, I don't add my managers for obvious reasons. I was like, yeah, I'm not
Yeah.
gonna cross that line because it's just too weird. But after, when I move on, right, then I add them, right? It's like, oh, we're now friends. We don't have that weird relationship where you're like my boss and it could get me fired and stuff. But yeah, no, so I did the opposite, right? Like Instagram's all about filters and looking perfect and stuff. Like one day I cried, right? And I just posted about crying.
Yeah.
I had, my son had a tantrum. I posted about that.
Sure.
I posted about all the bad stuff that people were like, on Instagram, why would you post this kind of stuff? Because I'm like, that's life. It's not all the glamour.
It's real.
Yeah, it's the real stuff, right? It's like
It's the stuff that no one wants to. It's the stuff that generally creators, not we as creators, but content out there is that type of stuff we don't see.
Yes,
right.
It edits.
It's like
it edits out.
It's filtered. It's a filtered life,
Yep.
right? Yeah. And I think that's what you and I are trying to create as content, is the unfiltered content that is generally not discussed.
Yes, and saves so much time, right? I mean, like edits and stuff. I'm like, I have no time to edit. I'm just gonna record it, and boom, it's up on YouTube. And if they like it, they do. If they don't, they don't. But I mean, I get it, right? Competition for time. So maybe down the road, as I have more time, we'll give them the highlights, right? So then, I know people are busy and stuff, but for the followers, which I've got a couple of people on my stream chat saying I'm listening live, fan of the show. Thank you, Jake the Snake and Jasper Lynn. Alma Mata, I'm on too. So I've never had this before, or maybe I just never turned it on. I have dual screen now, guys. Thank you. So now I see people posting on this, which is kind of cool. So props to YouTube. And yeah, so it's been fun. It's been lots of fun. I just did I think I did a career chat with a good friend of mine, and it's so funny because their friends just roasted him for it, but then I got a lot of views because it was like I featured the guy, and it was like, oh, this is cool. And I was like, are you sure I'm okay to release this on YouTube? He's like, go ahead, I'm not gonna say anything that I regret. And I was like, okay. And then apparently he told me he had a friend who put it on his 60-inch TV, and then he streamed it with his family. So for an hour they watched this career chat. This is my friend. he got featured, and I'm like, okay. I was like, sure, sounds good to me. And so we're doing good. I think we're doing good content. Got a job offer and good feedback, and
got an offer.
Yes. Yes, I did. But yeah, I was just like, in the interest of time, I was like,
Fair enough.
I was like, I will decline. But
Oh,
you know,
interesting that you can. Interesting that you have the capacity to say no.
I'm a yes man, right? But I was just kind of like, I'm like, I've got all this other stuff going on,
Yeah.
and as much as a 9 to 5 and like guarantee salary is so tempting, especially as a young dad, right? It's like, okay, that's security, but it's like, nope, just give me a year and let me try to figure this out and see, and then if nothing works out, then I can go all I can. It's good to know that this is like a job interview, right? Like this is now
Yeah.
content that people all
Yeah.
just be like, hey, you want to know who I am? Like, here's my channel, and like unfiltered, right? You don't even have
Yeah.
to go do Google search, Facebook, social media search. Just watch my just watch just watch my videos. I was
Yeah.
telling a student about that, right? Who was recently applying for a Big Four firm, and I told her, I'm like, you know what? I actually got a job offer just by doing this video. I'm like, why don't you do a channel on audit? And she's like, what? I was like, yeah, just pick audit concepts and just like, make it so fun and so interesting, and then submit that as a resume to your like campus head recruiter. I guarantee you will have a interview. Like no student accountant. Not even when I did it, I would think of something like that, right? Because
I don't know. That's scary, man.
I'm like,
I
if you
wouldn't
can do
want
that.
it. I wouldn't want to do that. Seriously.
See, that's the type of accountants are like so risk averse, right? That I was like, you want to be different, you want to stand out, do that kind of stuff, right? But she was
I do
kind of
something
like,
different.
yeah,
No, I would do a channel, showcasing who I am, but
yeah,
I mean, not specifically on audit or accounting concepts at the end
or
of the day.
debits
Like,
and credits, or basic things, maybe not the advanced stuff. And I'm like, just
I would just say just plain basic personal finance,
There you
right?
go.
Like,
There you go.
money saving
Mhm.
concepts, what I do, what I spend my money on,
Yeah.
right? Like, like I'm a student. No, if I was, no, here's a title. Feel free to take this for whoever watches our channel, right? If I was a CPA student making 45 grand a year, this is how I'd spend my money.
Right.
Boom, make a video on that.
Oh yes.
That will get no, it probably won't get traction. There's so many channels out there where how I spend my money, et cetera, right? But if you were to deliver that as part of your LinkedIn profile or part of your resume, right?
Yeah.
Basically, you have big arrows like check out this link, right? That would be worthwhile as an interview, as a recruiter to look at, if they can bother spending the 3 to 5 minutes watching your video, right?
Right.
When I flip through resumes, I flip through like 30 seconds. Like, you have 30 seconds to really just impress me with a piece of paper. Else,
And why don't it's like a video? Like everyone loves videos. Like TikTok's all about that, right? Like 10, 15-second video. Just do one of those. You'll get your attention.
I don't know.
Right?
I don't know about TikTok, man. Like, okay, that's another one. I don't have TikTok.
I don't
obviously,
either. But
obviously,
I've
I've seen
seen
TikTok
kids
videos
on playgrounds with it. Like they're like swinging down the slides, and then I'm like, why is there like a cell phone like just like not properly done? But that's the thing, right? Like it's like a countdown, and then like swing down the slide. They're like, yeah, and they're like going down, and I'm like, it's a thing.
I just don't get it. I just don't get it. I don't get it. But no, it make a great. You make no. It's pretty like how to sell yourself today compared to when we went through the whole interview process 10 years ago, right?
Yeah.
There's so many more avenues today, right? Yeah. But it's also a little scary as well because putting up the wrong content could also steer you the wrong direction.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
It could be something that could very well just be unattractive from a recruiter standpoint, right? Yeah. Not necessarily from a maturity or professionalism standpoint, but it just could be something that you said or something that is inadvertently posted that just rubs the interviewer off, basically, right? Mm-hmm. But it's tough, right? And trying to get that that 9 to 5, trying to commit to that 9 to 5, it's commit or get that 9 to 5. It's tough, right?
Well, I got a question from Jake the Snake 14. So as a young dad, how did you get to the point of doing your own thing versus a stable job? Curious because I have 2 kids and couldn't take the risk of no job security. Should I take that? I guess it was directed at me, and then
we can both take it.
Yeah,
you go first.
I'll go first, right? I'll go first. So thanks for the question, Jake the Snake. I love it. And kudos to you for 2 kids. I only have 1. and I found it a challenge. So for you to have two, kudos, because it's it's a challenge for sure. Like it's one parent. Right now I can do two parents on one, like two against one, but when it's two kids, it's one versus one, I guess. But to your question, I think like how I approached it before I got laid off was I was like I had the stable job because it's like you have two kids. I had the family to take care of, and I would just do something on the side. But on the side, I have to do other business activity because in financial planning, investments, OBA is big, or outside business activity. You don't want to lose your license because you do something on the side and it's not the regulators are not happy. So so I disclosed like this is what I wanted to do. I wanted to do a like coaching on the side, right? And it got banned. And I guess this exposed me to I guess like they thought I was gonna be a competitor, and so it led to my dismissal, right? And performance and what have you, and standing my ground and all that other sort of stuff. So then I was kind of forced to kind of just now do this full time. So I didn't have that kind of luxury to be like, oh, now, like cost benefit analysis. Okay, this, my side gig is making more than my stable job. So, okay, now, it's fine and dandy. Let's just go do my side gig and become full-time. No, I didn't have that luxury. It was kind of just, okay, well, you're not fit for the company, so see you later. And I'm like, okay. And, just decompose. And I'm like, oh yeah, what did I want to do again? Oh yeah, I want to start this like financial planning practice. And there's no compete clause in my contract, and I reviewed it with a lawyer. I'm like, okay, so I can go ahead and go and do this side practice, and so far it's not just one thing, right? Like I'm trying multiple things, and like Brandon was mentioning that he's gonna go down to Point Roberts and start a bookkeeping firm. I was actually talking to him, and I'm like, hey, like how's bookkeeping, right? I'm like, maybe I can start a bookkeeping firm. Just to get students some experience and I have a little bit of a accounting, background, and, how does this all work and stuff like that. So, that's an idea, right? Like, the joke about me being a professor, well, like I'm trying to maybe go and teach a few classes and then apply to, a university or a college or something like that and get that quote unquote stable income. But again, doing something that I like. On top of having my practice. So right now I think I have 4, 5, 6 different things I'm involved in just to see what sticks. So is it like, oh, like, 1 leads to 2 leads to 3? No, it's a journey. But I think the important thing here is like, you got to do what you love. And my psychologist told me this, and she's like, don't worry about the money, Kenald. It's like, if you can create value in this world, the money will come. And truly, that's what's been happening. It's like, I just create value, right? I'm doing this, and then I get an offer for a job. I'm like, I love it. Like, I love being on camera and just like, talking about this sort of stuff. And then it shows, this passion just shows, and people pick up on it. And so like, it's like, things doing with students and mentoring and all that, like, at first I was like, oh, maybe I should charge them. But then I'm like, no, when I was a student, I didn't have much money. And, my mentors never charged me. This doesn't make sense. And so, just out of the, the tithing principle and just kind of giving back, I'm like, you know what, I'll help these students if they're willing to learn and do things. I've got coached and I got mentored, and let's give back a little bit if, they don't find me too boring and they would actually listen to me, right? Because I talked to my wife, and she's just like, shaking her head, like, don't monologue with me, like, I'm not interested, right? But then I tell the student the same thing, and they're kind of like looking at me like, whoa, that's wisdom. Like, this is, I get that adoration, right? And with my wife, she's like, yeah, I don't buy this. Like, I listen to you on repeat every day. This is old news, right? This is old news. And I'm like, so I said, like, Tony Robbins, and I'm like, and if I was Tony Robbins, right? And then it's like, is that, like it's like, yeah, it's like, Tony Robbins on steroids. Like, you're talking about motivation, all this sort of stuff. Like, it's like, I've heard it, just do it, right? Whereas these students are like, oh no, this is the first time hearing it. It's like, oh, okay, I can approach it. But I've been with my wife now for like 2013, so almost 10 years. So the good, bad, and the ugly. But yeah, so that's my part. Over to you, Brandon. And then I think we should start talking about hustle culture.
Well, you know what? I think my response to Jake 1414 or Jake the Snake 1414, it's similar, but also dissimilar to what Kenald had to say. I mean, I think I'm years ahead of Kenald in terms of age, so I've already done what Kenald's doing in terms of throwing whatever's out there and having it stick. I completely understand that. I think in terms of my angle, I come from I'm more stable at this point. I mean, I have one kid at this point. I have 2 jobs at this point. In some sense, I have 3 jobs, but I don't want to talk about the 3rd job at this point. I work, 80, 90, 100 hours a week, and that's just factual, while sustaining a marriage, while raising a child. Now, I'm only able to do that because I work from home at this point. I work 2 jobs. I make a decent sum of coin, which would allow me to, at this point, exercise if I want to keep 1 or 2 jobs or completely do something else at this point. I definitely would, at this point, keep one or the other, because they're both very high paying. In terms of how I balance the 2, it's more about weighing priorities at the end of the day. In terms of how I was able to go out on my own, getting off. I'm still on the 9 to 5, but going off on my own at this point. I did do a lot of things. I was a lecturer at one point. That didn't work for me. I didn't like the politics or the bureaucracy within higher level education that frayed me away quite quickly. But at this point, much to what Kenald said, my side gig now exceeds my employment at this point. And it kind of this kind of, I guess, our segue into hustle culture, right? Where when is it enough, right? And in some sense, it's an addiction, right? Where the toxicity of hustle culture at this point is among myself and among many people our age, it is almost we think we're the consumers, but we're actually being consumed at this point. Yeah. And that's a scary thing. Like when do we find out when it's enough, right? Where it's hard to just quit, up and quit your job and to start something. Yeah. Losing that stability of the 9 to 5, starting something on your own from zero. It's almost, I would say, it's insanity to do that, right? I mean, a lot of us are forced in that situation, right? Kenald, you got laid off. Yep. In 2012, I got laid off, right, from an accounting firm. And that's what forced me to actually start my side gig, right? Was that, I was laid off. I came back from Disneyland, happiest place on the planet. I came back on the Monday. No one would respond to my emails. Tuesday, I got fired, laid off. It was a layoff because I got severance out of it. They couldn't fire me for whatever they wanted to fire me for. I was forced in my situation very much like you, Kenald, where I was forced. Well, you kind of already had your side gig, right? I was forced to.
Well, not officially, because I needed to get the approval first.
Sure,
I never did, and so I buried it because I'm
you're regulated.
Right? I wanted to keep my 9 to 5, right? But
yeah.
But
but I mean, in my situation, I was forced to basically. I had to contract. Like I had a mortgage. The day when I was fired, I had a very small mortgage of $1,400 a month, right? Mm-hmm. But nonetheless, I still had to bring in like $2,000 a month to sustain that mortgage. Yeah. And like I needed to basically build a business. I was forced to in that situation, right? Which led to waking up at 5 a.m., leaving the house at 5:30, yep. and coming home at 11 p.m. Yep. And those were tough, grindy years. And whether you're an accountant or a financial planner, yep. right, you got to build your book, yep. right? And it wasn't until 2016 when I took that mat leave position, yep. when suddenly I had a full-time 9 to 5 job and a side gig, right. where I was making decent coin at that time, right? Yep. And, I was working a 9 to 5, not really, like no job is a 40-hour week, right? Mm-hmm. There's a lot of screw around in between. where basically I was doing a 9 to 5 during the day, and I was doing like a 5 to midnight on my side gig, right? And it became nearly an addiction at this point, where it's so hard to leave, right, the stability of my job, to focus on my business. One, because I love, like, no, we've established I love my job. I love what I do there, right? I know what I accomplish from showing up, despite the compensation the compensation they provide me. It's so hard to leave when or when you think you're doing good out there, or you're doing good for this world, right? But at the same time, right, I've established a side gig where it compensates me more than my day job at this point. When I guess the question really become, when is it enough? Or two, like, at the end of the day, are you going to outlast your job, or is your health going to outlast you, right? And that's kind of where I'm at this point, where it's easy to say, Brandon, you got this side gig that can sustain your style of life. Why don't you just give up your day job, right? For some people, right, to get ahead in this world. We talked about this in episode 1, right? Where the expectation nowadays is that you have 2 jobs to live in a expensive. I'm not gonna call Vancouver a metropolitan. It's not, right? Right? But to live in a sizable West Coast city, right? You basically have to work 2 jobs, right? To say you want to work a 9 to 5, or say you want to branch out to take it to the next level, right? Because if you work a 9 to 5, the most you're going to make is 120, maybe 150, depending on where you are, right? But that next level is really breaking the 200K barrier, and you can really only do that when you're on your own, right? Or when you're on your own, or if you can contract for $100+ an hour, right? But no, it's tough. Right, it's tough to to respond to Jake's original question, like, when can you get up to to go, right? My advice, I think you got to establish something on the side, right, before you can get up to go, right? Because I mean, if you have a family, if you have 2 kids, right, and you're busting your balls out there to sustain the monthly payments for cost of living, right? I mean, you're gonna have to put in that extra 5-10 hours to begin establishing that side gig that's gonna make 40-50 grand on the side, where now you're working 60, 70, 80 hours despite having a family and juggling all of that, before you can really get up and say, I'm done, right? And then you're just resetting yourself from a now $180,000 to $200,000 earning power back down to a $50,000 earning power. Like, that's tough, right? And that's kind of where I am, right? Like, I have this significant earning power right now, where I'm enjoying it, right? I have a very frugal lifestyle. Very little of it goes to groceries and the mortgage and whatever, and a lot of it goes into investments, right? But suddenly to say, I'm going to quit my 9 to 5 and I'm going to rely on my business, well, sure, I can support my mortgage. I can go buy strip loin steaks if I want to. I'm still gonna buy my tri-tip because that's how cheap I am. But I won't be able to have the level of security of being able to stash away the amount of investments I do for the purposes of retiring early, right? Because it is my goal, right? And it's Kenald's goal as well. We don't want to retire by 65, right? That retiring by 65 sucks. Granted, a lot of people do, right? But in our point of view, from a personal finance point of view, if you're retiring by 65, it's almost like you failed, right? My aim is retiring at 51, right? And I'm saving 60% of my take home, right, for the purposes of hitting that target with the what I believe is my level of consumption at that age, right? Because I don't want to go on inside cruise in an inside suite cruise,
Yeah.
right? I want at least a balcony, if not a suite, and I'm paying like 4 times the price,
Yes.
right? Sure, I will fly economy class, right? I don't see the advantages of business class, quite frankly.
Right.
Some people will tell me I'm missing out, but
Yeah.
I just don't see it. But no, inside cruise versus like balcony, big difference.
Right. Yeah.
Right. But no, I think it's really tough to make that leap.
Yeah.
Right. It's either, you got to suck it in and make that leap yourself, or your boss fires you and you're forced in that situation, which is what happened to Kenald and myself.
Yeah. But to your point of retirement, since we're on the topic of hustle culture as well, like what is the definition of retirement? Like, let's say like you won the lottery, you've hit your thing, like are you now retired? Like, because I was pondering this, right? Because I was like,
okay.
I was
Sure.
I'm kind of retired now. I'm like, yes, I have to work to pay my mortgage and all this sort of stuff. But I can imagine, like, what I'm doing right now is what I'll be doing in retired life. Like, I would be going out and mentoring students. I would be going out and pursuing new opportunities and businesses. And I feel I'm at a state of where it's like, okay, like, I'm not stressed out because I have enough, like I said, I have enough savings and, just in case something like this were to happen, I kind of, quote unquote, planned for it. And so it's not like, okay, I got to jump to my next job. I have this kind of gap year. That I can kind of ride it out and be like, okay, like if all this stuff doesn't work, then I go back to plan B, which is, a 9-to-5 job.
Yeah.
So
absolutely.
So right now I'm living the retired life, if I may, right? I'm going biking, in the afternoons with my friends who also
going running. I see it.
Running.
I see your whole feed.
Yeah.
You're enjoying life right now.
I'm running right now. I'm what else am I doing? I'm swimming. I'm trying to, train for the triathlon for next year. I'm doing fundraising at the same time, for Peace Arch Hospital and for my half marathon run. Because actually, it's not because I enjoy all this, but the second reason for that is I talk to like my 40-year-old friends. My hairstylist is 40, and he's super wise. And he told me, he's like, you know what, Kenald? He's like, when you hit 40, like something happened to my body, right? And it's like, I just like, it just like went from like, I was like this peak performance to this, right?
Just wait till you're 37.
There you go. There you go. And so he's like, Kenald, if I were to tell my 30-year-old self, this is what I will tell him, is that, take good care of your body while you're still strong, while you still feel kind of the vitality and the health. Don't just work away and grind away and lose your health, because at 40, if you don't take good care of it from a young age, it's just gonna hit you like what happened.
Yeah,
and that's
what happened to me.
Yeah,
no, that's what happened to me at this point.
Right.
Yeah, despite being at a desk job, my body's broken at this point.
Right.
I have tennis elbow. I have tendonitis. I have carpal tunnel. And I actually I'm not fat. Right. I'm not overweight. Right. I'm consistent. 152 pounds virtually every day. Right. But I'm 37 and I'm tired. Yeah. I mean, I used to run track and field. I used to run cross country. Right. When I was way younger. Right. I used to run a mile in like 4 minutes and 14 seconds. Wow. Right. When I was fit. Right. And I believed I was invincible, that nothing would happen to me. But from 16 or 18 all the way to 30, 18 to 30, I did nothing with my health. Right. And I'm paying the price now. Right.
And that's why I'm going to see. I mean, I thought physio was for people that got injuries, right? But then no, my RMT was like, no, you can go see a physio if you just to fix things. And so I'm seeing a physio now because like my hamstrings and stuff, they're like super tight. And it's because of my glutes being like from sitting all the time, right? So me being at a desk job for the last 10 plus years is now catching up. And luckily I'm able to, kind of catch it kind of before the 40. And now I'm working on things where like movement and posture and all this sort of stuff, which I'm like, yeah, I never took good care of my body. Like I was just like, okay, whatever, I'll run it to the ground and, I'll figure it out later, right? But isn't it funny that we have that kind of thinking where it's like, okay, yeah, like I'm young right now, I can sacrifice the body, we'll fix it later. But then it takes, tens of thousands of dollars
with money. Yeah.
So why don't we just Talent.
But that's the toxicity of hustle culture. Like that's the whole topic I want to talk to you about today.
Yeah.
Like I'm like, no, not only myself, right? But our viewers and people our age, right? And
Yeah.
we talked about, again, alluding back to episode 1,
Yeah.
we're all grinding more than 40 hours a week at this point.
Yeah.
A lot of us don't have time, to do normal exercise, right?
Mm-hmm.
A lot of us still think we're, in our 25 to 30, where we think we're in good health, right? Yeah. Where a lot of us are going downhill at this point because we're working so damn much and not focusing on ourselves, right? And I've always had this point of view. I'm going to retire early, right? I'm going to the whole FIRE movement. I'm going to become financially independent. I'm going to retire early, and that's that. And you asked me, what's retirement, Brandon? Right? I've pondered that question a million times, and I have a very good colleague. He retired. He's 2 years younger than me. He retired, I think. I'm just gonna say he retired in his not early 30s, like between 33 and 35. He retired. He had a job that paid him very well, and he was basically able to achieve financial independence very early. And he was bored to death when he quote unquote retired, right? He took his 1 gap year in retirement, and basically he did not know what to do with himself, right? After his gap year, he started a business, and he has to do that business at this point, or else he's going to go nuts, right? And like people ask me the same questions, like, Brandon, you're hustling, you're working 80, 90 hours a week, and you're doing this podcast on April 23rd. You have like 100 tax returns due in 8 days. Like, how are you doing all this, right? And why are you doing all of this, right? What are you trying to achieve? Like, why are you trying to move the goalpost to age 51, right? Right. And like the answer I told them, and I think I said this in the last episode, Kenald, I can do whatever I want, right? It doesn't matter what I do at 51. It's like, I can do whatever I want, right? And, they basically said, like, Brandon, you will not retire early, right? You will keep working because that's who you are. You think and you say you're going to retire, right? But it's very likely, you won't, Brandon. You won't retire, right? You're going to be doing something. It doesn't, it may not be accounting at the end of the day, right? It might be something else, right? But you're going to be doing something, or else, those who stop working just die right away, right? Because the change of scenery and everything, right? And it's weird. Like I called it an addiction, right? Hustle culture, right? I called it an addiction, but at the same time, it's kind of like a poison, right? I'm striving for a fixed number, and that number in my head, for everyone watching, that number in my head is $4.5 million, and a paid off house, right?
Inflation included or not?
Index for inflation. Okay. So 4.5 million by age 51 is the number I'm trying to achieve. Right. And we can move the goalposts along the way depending on how broken my body is at the end of the day. But
and 5% inflation rate.
Doesn't matter. I in my calculation, I assumed a 3% inflation rate.
Okay.
So $4.5 million by age 51 with a paid off house. Okay. It basically, at that point, OAS will not be grinded down between myself and my spouse, right? I'm assuming no CPP because I probably won't be paying into it within near midterm, right? And really, it's just all investments. And that 4.5 million is a combination of like stocks and real estate, right? And then, it's a very aggressive target, right? It's a target, that's 14 years from now. I don't think I'm going to hit $4.5 million in 14 years, right? But we don't know. No one has a crystal ball.
Well, Vancouver real estate, you have a good shot at it.
Well, again, we don't have. It's like I don't have a crystal ball. I don't know what's going to happen, right? But it's an addiction to a poison that is being built around. I'm not going to say people our age, but a particular type of person who wants to achieve
type A
fire.
Type A personality.
I'm not a type A though.
Really?
No, I'm a type B.
Oh, yeah, I can see that. Yeah.
All right. I'm a type B. I'm a fake type A.
Yeah. Because you're a type B.
Well, I'm a type A because I can put on a hat and force myself to be a type A.
To be a type B.
In front of a camera and in front of clients. I can turn myself in. but no, it's exhausting. Like I can do these 1-2 hour Zoom calls,
Yeah.
Kenald. It's not a problem. But if I had to do this every day,
Yes.
I don't know if I could keep up.
Yeah.
Right. But no, it's funny, like, talking about this whole thing about hustle culture, and, inevitably we do it to either survive or we do it for the purposes of getting ahead. Right. And for me, it's getting ahead. Right. If I worked a 9 to 5, I'd probably go home, I'd probably clear $5, $6, $7,000 a month. Right. No, Vancouver real estate's hell of expensive, right? If interest rates go up, no, my mortgage payments will go up, right? The cost of living versus renting, it's more or less will be the same once my mortgage renews. Right? Like, it's not enough to just work a 9 to 5 in any major West Coast city, right? I question, how individuals who just have the one job are able to, like, unless they're hitting it big on Bitcoin or hitting it big on penny stocks. No, not Bitcoin, cryptocurrency, or hitting it big on penny stocks at the end of the day. I find it very difficult for how the normal person achieves, or how the normal person will achieve financial security by the time they retire.
Well, you need the dual income, right? You need the not just
Well, even if there's dual income, right? I mean, we're talking about the average person here, right?
Yeah.
I mean, my salary is not average
Right.
for who I am,
Right.
right? My compensation level is not average for who I am. Right? If I'm talking for the average person out there who's making, household of two, making $60,000 a year, right? No, they will, like, it's hard. Like, I was critiqued in the last episode.
Right.
Two couples bring home, 60 grand each, right? $5,000 a month. They're going to clear $3,800 each. Household income is $7,000.
Right.
They pay, their mortgage $2,500, right? Leaves them $5,500. Groceries. Apparently I left a car lease out of there because everyone needs a car apparently in Vancouver, with insurance and everything. Property taxes, forget property tax because they're renting, right?
Yeah.
Like, for them to be able to save $1,000 or $2,000 towards, a down payment, right, is already pretty hard because, if you're saving 24 grand a year for 10 years to make, 240,000, you might be able to invest that, make a little bit of money back for you, $350,000 to afford a townhouse in Surrey or Langley, in which you're going to service, $600,000-$700,000 of mortgages at 5% now, right? Like, by the time you retire, you have a 25-year mortgage. You could be paying that mortgage all your life, right? You get CPP, you get OAS, and you might have, I don't know, $200,000, $300,000, $400,000 of investments by the time you retire in your RSP account, right? That's not really financial security, right? Yeah. I mean, sure, you get enhanced CPP, you get OAS. That's maybe like 30 grand, future dollars to retire on. You'll get let's just be generous, $400,000 of stocks to invest on, stock investments, right? That'll pay you another 20 grand a year. So you have a paid off house and you're living with 50 grand a year in 2050, right? 50 grand a year in 2050 is going to be like very little money. Yes. How can you call that financial security if you and your spouse are just basically working one job each? Right. If you go on a cruise, you're booking that inside suite because you can't afford balcony, right? And to get ahead, you're going to have to hustle. Yep. But at the same time, it's a vicious loop where basically hustle culture is going to kill you. Yep. Right? That's kind of where I'm getting at, right? Yes. Is that, if you want to get ahead, you're going to have to work that extra job, and, you're going to have to make sacrifices for it.
I mean, do you have to work that extra job is my question. With now the technologies that we have, right? Like with now streaming, and I'm not saying like, yes, overnight you're going to be a streaming sensation, you're going to have money, kind of printing. Yeah. But I mean, I'm thinking about it. My uncle once told me, right? He's like, you know what? You're sleeping and you're making money. I'm like, I don't understand. He's like, well, your real estate is going up in prices, and you're not doing anything, right? And at the rate we're going, like, that's it, right? That's what everyone's plans are. Like when I was servicing them, they're like, okay, well, yeah, I didn't save enough, but you know what? I'm going to downsize. I'm going to sell my house and buy a condo and live off the savings. and you know, that has been the plan for a lot of people, and you know, I don't know if it's
Yes, to downsize basically.
the downsides
Yeah.
or the combination, right? I have a friend who basically, you know,
Or buy an annuity,
yeah,
which I viciously disagree
I
with,
disagree. Yeah, I wouldn't.
right?
That's just too much. Yeah.
No, not necessarily. For some people who are in very good health, who live up to they're 99,
Yeah.
annuity is a great solution,
Right.
right? No, it's guaranteed that you won't starve when you're 99.
Yeah.
But at the same time, and here's the curveball or wrench I'm going to throw in, there's legacy,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
I have one child right now. You have one child. Are we going to leave anything for them,
Yeah.
right? And coming from a very, I wouldn't call myself super Asian, but coming from, I don't want to say coming from my background. Whoever I am, whoever the values that I grew up with,
Yeah.
right? I want to be able to leave something for my next of kin, right?
Yeah.
Whether that's property or financials at the end of the day. I want to make sure if they screw up in life, they're still protected, right? Because not everyone. I don't want to call. I don't want to flex here. Not everyone's going to be me, or I don't expect my kid to be me. Nor do I want my kid to live the same life I do, or I did, right? I don't want my kid working 80 hours a week. Right, because I realize how much it sucks. Right. And I hope he can work his 40 hours, and if he wants, he can become a musician and busk for $10 an hour and feel safe doing that. Right. Financially. Right. To each their own.
But I mean, to legacy, right? And one of my friends actually brought up a good point where it's like they also want to do YouTube, after hearing kind of what we were doing here, and he's always wanted to kind of start his own channel and what have you. And he's like, because I want to leave a legacy that, like, if one day I was hit by a bus, knock on wood, but I'm on, I leave a course, online where people can access about personal finance. And isn't that exactly what we're doing right now? Like, yes, we're doing 2 hours a day, but I was thinking, right, like, should anything happen to me, at least there's 3 episodes of Young Dad Finance that my son, when he grows up, he can go and look at my chat. I mean, he actually did that, right? He watches YouTube and he's clicking, and then because he's using my, my my profile, sometimes I'll pop up now because he'll go to my page and then again, like, my wife will be like, "Why are you watching Baba?" And he's like, he's looking, he's like, "I know this guy on YouTube. Like, why is he on YouTube?" And I was just thinking, I was like, oh yeah, so, should anything happen to me, now I have a mini legacy on this, and this is more power to kind of do this kind of stuff, because it's like, wow, like, I'm just investing 2 hours kind of every weekend, but then my son will get, like, my personality, will get all this stuff, all this knowledge, and it's like, I
get that,
right. So not just money.
The education component.
I know, right? As Asian and backgrounds, you want to leave.
Oh, you're freezing there, Kenald.
Oh, am I? I wonder if something's going on. Am I back?
Yeah.
Oh, my internet. Internet connection is unstable. So, time to pay my Telus bills, which I do, but. maybe it's
I lost you for the last 10 seconds there.
Oh, I didn't say anything after you said I was unstable. So, but am I back? Is it now stable?
Yeah. No, you're back now. You're back.
Okay, perfect. Perfect. And so, I gotta stop these notifications.
No, I think that's my, I wouldn't call it my mistake, but maybe it's my definition of a financial legacy.
Yes.
Right. Now, obviously, there's the education legacy you can provide as well.
Right.
Whether it be like written scrolls on paper and parchment, or YouTube videos and whatnot, right? Or courses that you left online, right?
Yeah.
I mean, courses left online, you can collect on royalties, whatnot. And again, from my point of view, that's the financial legacy. But the education component, of course, to what you can leave is obviously that's an intangible, right? That there's definitely value, right? That is immeasurable, right? But I think to answer your original question, do I have to work 2 jobs? Do I have to pursue hustle culture, right?
Yeah.
Or no, I think at this point it's tough, right?
Yeah.
And I've been there at the very low, right? And when I got canned, right, that's where, you know, I had to like take this away from this talk tonight, Kenald.
Yeah.
I was the happiest when I was poorest.
Right.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Like just soak that for a minute. And that came up to me, you know, this week coming up to this conversation. Like I wanted to make sure I get that word out there.
Right.
Like, no, I was making, I think back in 2013 or 2014, it was like my first year of contracting, right? I was probably making like 60 grand.
Yeah.
Right. And I was working, you know, 9 to 5, you know, busy season, like 9 to 7, 9 to 9 type of thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
I was just building my own business on the side. I think my first year I made $5,000 in my first year of business. I lost 7 grand, 7 grand of expenses, minus 2 grand loss. But you know, I had time, right, to do things I really want to do: play video games, go hiking, go on trips, right? Despite, you know, not having the budget to do those things, right? You know, but you know, having time to myself, I was the happiest, right? I'm miserable now, right? Working 2 jobs, working 80 hours, not being like, my son's born.
Yeah.
I go upstairs. My wife calls me at this point the 15-minute dad.
Yeah.
Right? Because I go upstairs, I cradle him for 15 minutes, and then I leave.
Right.
Right. And, you know, it kills me on the inside that basically I'm sacrificing, you know, my mind and my body at this point, and I'm gonna call it towards an addiction of making money.
Yeah.
Right. And no, this addiction to making money is because I've been in a situation where I was put in a situation where I was unable to obtain money. Right. When I got canned, I was forced to start my business because I couldn't get a job.
Right.
I had probably a couple grand in the bank. I had zero earning power. And the only way I was able to, you know, get earning power again was to call my old job back and say, hey, I'm available if you need me. And they just happened to take me up. They were desperate for employees at that time, which, you know, I happened to got that bridge, right? But, you know, I was kind of broke, right? I bought my condo on an unpaid credit card. I had to renovate my condo with a line of credit that was like 5.6% at that time.
Right.
And, you know, I was broke with debt, with virtually very little earning power. Seeing basically, no, and this is dangerous, the comparison effect, comparing myself to my colleagues who were leaps and bounds ahead. Right. And I remember one of my consulting colleagues at the time, he was basically saying, Brandon, you went to become a CA to make $60,000 a year. Like, you know, and he was a consultant making like 120 grand, right? like it didn't make sense, right? But, you know, like I like, you know, the addiction at this point to make money is to ensure I'm not put in that situation again. Right. And that's it to me. But at the same time, I do recognize, right, the I don't know whether it's appropriate to even call it a mental illness of being addicted to earning.
Well, it could be stemming from, like you said, you don't want to be in that place again where you don't have the earning power. And because of that fear of being in that place again, it's holding you to pursue this hustle culture, right? And so it's funny because it's like I feel when you mentioned like you were the happiest when you're the poorest. Well, I'm the poorest I've ever been since I was a student right now. But I completely agree with it. I'm living my best life. And
you get to go out, you're spending time with your kid, you're running, you're exercising, you're swimming, you're biking. Right.
And I don't want to lose this because I don't want to be that 50-minute dad, because I heard a story once where you know, the story goes, you know, dad comes back, you know, and the daughter, you know, is like, daddy, like, you know, can you spend time with me this afternoon, right? And then,
you mentioned this. I think you mentioned this story
probably
last episode where she needed to buy the time.
Right? Yeah. Can you imagine, right? Your son at that point now, it's like he's saving, right? You're giving him allowance, and then one day he brings you his piggy bank, and it's like, Baba,
$225.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah, can I buy an hour at a time, Dad?
Right?
225 an hour.
And he'll be saving because he wants that 1 hour with you so bad. And he's like, here's 225. Like, phone's away. I just want your 1 hour of time, right? And it's like, okay, so that story just kind of was like, okay, I don't ever want to put my son in that in that position. And it's like, do I need that money, right? Do I need this house? Do I need it? So for me, it's not like the 51 or the 65, and that's why I asked you what retirement means to you. To me, it's like, okay, do I have enough today to basically pay my bills so that I can pay my bills, but at the same time enjoy life, right? And I look at my 2.5-year-old son, and he knows how to enjoy life, right? He doesn't eat, like leftovers. We heat it for him. He will not eat it. He will want everything. Like,
oh, I love leftovers.
Yeah, I make lunch for him, and like if I said leftovers, he will not eat it that day. And every morning I have to make something fresh for me to get the satisfaction of I open up his lunchbox and it's clear, right? If it's leftover food, it will be not clear. But it's like, but I juggle with it all the time. I tell my wife, I'm like, man, like this weekend, I want to be working. I want to be, bringing money in. But no, we have a rule, right? Where it's like, no, weekends are for family, and weekdays, you can hustle and do whatever, right? You have kind of that 40-hour, and sometimes it's not even 40 hours because I drop my son off and pick him up and I'm running and all that other stuff. But I do see my colleagues, right? My colleagues on my team who are the young guns, right? And my previous job too, right? Like 25 to 30-year-olds, no kid, no nothing, so they can just spend wake up at 5 a.m. and work until like 11, 12. But they're drained, right? Like we have our weekly calls and they're like, I feel burnt out. Like, I need to take a week's rest to recover from like my crazy week last week. And here I am, like, I'm this happy guy kind of like, let's go. And they're like, wait,
how do you have all this energy?
Yeah, how do you have all this energy? Like, you're a dad, you have two jobs, right? You have your practice you got to run, and you got, like my son to take care of. Like, that's two jobs. Like, you like, you're not exhausted at all. And I'm like, well, yeah, like being a dad is a job, but at the same time we have fun. Like this morning I just went swimming with him, and like he had the happiest time. He was like laughing in the pool, like like he's like when we're driving to the pool, he's like wow. And I was like, yeah, we're going to the pool, because every time we drive by we're not going in, right? And he really wanted to go, and then he saw the pool and he was just hysterical. He's like and he was like splashing his his feet and everything. Like it's been a week since, or 2 weeks maybe, since we've been back to the pool, and it energizes me, right? This like it's not like before I was like, oh man, what I do with my son, it's like, I'm dreading it, right? But now it's like, no, like I feed off his energy, he feeds off of my energy, and it's like, yes, like it's a great reminder like about hustle culture, and I'm like, I'm not going back, right? Like if this is what I need to kind of sustain my mortgage, and like, why am I moving to a bigger house, right? Why do I need to move to a bigger house? This will fit. Like, this is okay, right? Like my wife's like, no. If we're gonna have a second one, I need a fourth bedroom. I'm like, no, we don't need a fourth bedroom. We can just do bunk beds. I'm like, we have more space than people in Hong Kong, right? We have 3 freaking
certainly
bedrooms. Yeah, I'm like, we can make it work, right? And I have a friend who, has a house, but he rents out the basement suite, so he only has 2 bedrooms on top. He has 2 kids, and I'm like, how do you do it? Well, one sleeps with one, and the other sleeps with the other. Well, we make it work.
Yeah.
And I'm like, so I'm like, I have 3 bedrooms. They have 2. I'm like, I can definitely make this work, right? Well, we have an office right now. We'll just give up the office, whatever. I can have my office up in the kitchen. That's okay. It doesn't have to be a defined office, right? And so my point is contentment, I think, right? Coming back to
no, I get you.
Coming back.
When is it enough? When is it enough, basically?
Yeah, and so I think the antidote to hustle culture is we gotta define, what is enough, right? And if we can, ask ourselves that hard question and say like, this is enough. Right, and not kind of pursue more and more, but just live in like, we came in. I was reading a Bible verse this week. I started kind of like having time for spiritual practices and stuff. And the verse I read is like, you came onto this planet with nothing, and when you leave with nothing.
That is true.
And so it's it was a passage on contentment, right? Like 1 Timothy chapter 6, and it's like, wow. It's like, yeah, and they love to quote this verse where like, money is evil, but really it says the love of money is the root of all evil, right? It's the root of all problems. Why? Because we pursue money, we pursue wealth, and then like you mentioned, you're like, when I was poor, like I was so happy, but now with double income, I'm miserable, and it's like it's because contentment, like you also mentioned. Like, I'm comparing myself sometimes. It's like the consulting guy versus me, 120 versus 60. I think a lot of times the problems come when we compare ourselves with other people. We try to,
Oh, absolutely.
like be someone else. And that feeds into hustle culture. It's like, okay, I'm not good enough. I'm not. And where did that come from? You grew up with parents that said, A is not good enough, right? You got to get A plus. Right,
That's
Bobby
right.
Joe, right there, he got A plus.
You got an A plus.
Yeah.
Why didn't you get an A plus?
Yeah, why did you get an A plus? And you get A
God
plus,
forbid you got a B. Right?
yeah, Asian fail, right?
Right.
We grew up with this, right? We grew up with this culture of we're just not good enough. Like my parents never said, Kenald, you are good enough, right? It's always, why not this? Why not that? Why not, Mom? I just got straight A's. No. What about this? What about that? There's never, hey, great. Keep it up. This is great. You got A's, you got B's. As long as you've done your best, son, right? That's it, right? What is doing your best? Like I've always asked myself, what the does it mean to do your best? When you think you're best, you get straight A's and it's still not good enough.
Well, when you've done your best and when you didn't. Right?
Yeah, well, and that's where you got to teach yourself that. But as kids, we looked up to our parents, at least I did. And my parents never defined.
Well, that was our only source. That was our only source of a goalpost.
Right.
Right. And they've always egged us on, to do better when if we've already attempted. Like I could give myself a self-evaluation with an A plus in effort.
Yeah.
Right. Even though my results were a B minus. Right. No, but I mean. My effort level is always an A plus, right? But no, you bring up a very good point, and it really is kind of, I wouldn't, it's not a definite or an absolute solution, right? But it's a good enough solution to kind of redefine, right? Like, what are we trying to achieve, even, right? Like, I pulled out this magical number of $4 million out of thin air.
Right? 4.5, wasn't it?
Yeah, 4.5, 4.58. If we really want to be exact, it's 4.58, right? And it came from a long stemming calculation. I don't want to put the proof here, right? But long stemming calculation, that's the amount of money I need. But that it's so far fetched.
Yep.
Like, if not only you, right? If I went to your wife, I said, I need $4.58 million to retire. I'm pretty sure her eyes will be like, what for? What do you need that much money for? Right. And that's why I said, like, the goalposts will probably move.
Yeah.
Right. And it'll probably move downwards quite significantly. Right. Either one, because my body gets broken, or two, right. At this point, I realize, it comes to a point of self-realization.
Yeah.
Right. To there is a really good book out there. I forget his name. I know his last name is McGregor, but he writes a really good book on the term essentialism. Right. Not minimalism, not to be defined. Like, a lot of them get crossed with minimalism versus essentialism, because there are a lot of crosses between. But it defines, like, what exactly do you need, not only to get by, right? Like, we're not saying to do the absolute bare minimum to achieve essentialism, but what is essential to you, right? What is essential to me at the end of the day, right? And I think that has to be defined, and that will be different for every person, right? Not necessarily a number, but where they live, what they live in, what are they content with, very much like what you said, right? And when is it really not to ask you a question, what is enough, right? I think a lot of people don't even know themselves what's enough. That's probably me at this point as well, right? But to really define what really is enough.
Yeah, because I think you've defined it as you don't want to be back in that point where you lost income, and like that's it, right? That's kind of the driving force on like, so there's no definite answer. There's no number. There's no like, oh, when this and this happens, right? It's I just don't want to be in that state. And if you don't want to be in that state, well, that we're living in fear, right? And we're living in fear, then like you're just gonna push. You're just gonna push until, like you said, your body breaks. And that's why we have people like, getting heart attacks and strokes at 30.
Yeah, 30s and 40s. It's a big thing. Like people our age are getting illnesses and sickness. And I think it was you who you mentioned this a long time ago.
Yeah.
Where stress
Yes.
is the biggest killer.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
It's not heart attacks, it's not strokes and whatever out there. It's stress at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Right, that is leading to these strokes and heart attacks. Right, it has nothing to do with our diets, and our poor diets is due to stress, like stress eating. Right, where we have basically comfort food to make us feel better. Right, I think it was you who basically said like stress is the biggest like contributor to poor health.
Yeah. So. I mean, all the power to all the gyms and all the good food, but I think at the end of the day, if we learn to live with contentment, we define that, we ask ourselves, I mean, I'm not telling to go, sit in a tree or outside and meditate. I mean, that helps, but really just slow down, right?
Yeah.
Like, to our viewers, slow down. And I mean, I have a practice right now every morning where 5 minutes I'm in silent prayer, right? And whether that be meditation for you or whatever, just sit in silence. This was the hardest thing for me to do when I first started. Hardest, because I have all these voices and I'm like, oh, I could be doing something better, like hustle culture, right? Oh, these 5 minutes could have been better, doing a checklist or something else, right? But I've learned now to calm that, that nervous system down, I don't remember what, the amygdala, I think is what it's called. To calm it down and be like, no, I think I will be better if I just sit here for 5 minutes in silence and just breathe and just be, right?
It's hard for a lot of people though.
Yeah. But if you can find it, and I came from that background where it's, and I mean, I'm on and off, right? I've had days where it's like, okay, I'm not doing it because I got other stuff to do. But that's the day that I knew, like, I know that that's probably the best time for me to spend the 5 minutes. And if it's not 5, then do 2, right? Do 30 seconds even. Just start somewhere. Because my coach challenged me. He's like, do 30 minutes. And then I died that week trying to do 30, right? Because I was like, I went from 0 to 30. It's like running a marathon, right? You can't like
you don't run the marathon on day one.
On day one, like my trainer's like, no, we're gonna break it down, right? We're doing the 2 to 3 kilometers, then we're gonna do 5, we're gonna do 7, and last week I did 9. And like my body just like, just almost gave out. I was like, oh my goodness, thank God I didn't sign up for the sun run, which is tomorrow, because I would have been in a lot of pain. But it's like, no, you build up to it. You gotta, take those baby steps, and it's okay, that you don't go 0 to 100 in one day, right? But a lot of people, hustle culture, I need to be 0 to 100 tomorrow, right? Not tomorrow, today, right? Not tomorrow, not today, yesterday. I'm behind. Oh no, it's okay, right? Start.
I almost want to throw instant gratification in there again, but no, I think we've killed that topic.
It's part of it.
It is part of it.
Microwaves, instant noodles.
We are so programmed at this point to want things now, right? Yep. And I want, like, this is me. I want retirement now. If you ask me the question, it's the example you gave earlier. If I won the lottery today, what would I do tomorrow?
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And I would tell you, I don't know. Mm-hmm. Quite frankly, I would quit my job. If I won the lottery tomorrow, I would quit my job.
Yeah.
I would run my practice for 1 more year to basically say goodbye to everybody.
Right.
Right. I would give my partner $1 million as a, as an FU, take all my clients. I don't want to see them again. Don't bother me.
I thought he was going to pay you to buy you out, but you're actually
I got to pay him to buy me out. If I won Lotto Max, if I won even $50 million, right, I would give him $1 million to buy me out, basically. to basically say just take all the headaches away, and that's recorded, so he can definitely just take if that happens. I owe him $1 million, but I wouldn't know what to do tomorrow. Right. I would do something as I wouldn't do nothing.
Yeah.
Right. Or I would not be in a state of of nothing. I would do things like, I would become that Uber driver to get out of my system. Right.
Yep.
I would do Uber for like 3 to 6 months.
Yep.
I would do skip the dishes from 3 to 6 months. I really wouldn't have purpose though.
Yep.
I'm doing it for the sake of not being bored. Right. But no, if I won the lottery tomorrow, I would be a little lost.
Yep. And that's probably where you would.
I would go back to school.
Yeah, or hire like a life coach.
No, I would go. I would actually go back to school and start either my bachelor's or master's.
Right? You want to do. There you go.
That's right.
There you go. You know what you want to do. You just need to slow down, Brandon, and take some time and take some inventory of your interest that's buried deep inside because of.
I already know what my inventory. Is. It's just where the bricks I stacked up in my life at this point, right? It's good, but it's also bad. Right. But no, we want to be in a state where everything is good.
Yes.
Right. And even having an ounce of bad in there tarnishes any ability to get to that state of good. Mm-hmm. Right. Yeah. It's not the love of money, right? For me, at least, right? It's the it's the goalpost that I've set.
Okay.
Right. That, I think, has to be redefined or as to, what is enough. Right. As opposed to, building this grand mega vision that is almost nearly unattainable.
Right. Yeah. Cool. Okay. I think we're at time.
We're at time. Yeah. That's a great session.
That was a great session. You alluded to tax season, so I think next week April 30th is D-Day for accountants.
It's a Saturday.
Yeah, so
April 30th is a Saturday.
So we're gonna give Brandon a break, and then we're gonna come back probably in May, first week of May, which is what?
First week of May, which would be I think May the 6th.
May the 7th. 6th is a Friday. Yeah, 7th.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah, May 7th. So we'll come up. We don't know what our topic is yet, but let's let Brandon finish his returns, and then we'll post on our media channels and wherever you guys follow us. But it'll be good content as always. No, it's been a pleasure. Thank you, Brandon, for taking the time, especially amongst busy season. So and talking
awesome.
something so important as hustle culture, right? And sharing kind of your stories and all that. So always fun. But we'll leave it here for now, and all the best in the next 7, 8. I think May 2nd is the deadline, right? So
May 2nd's the deadline, but
you've got an extra 1 or 2 days there, but grind. All the power to you. And we'll see all of you in 2 weeks.
Sounds good. All right, chat soon, Kenald.
Okay, bye-bye.
Have a good night.